Hi everyone, this is Kevin with Elite Cosplay, and today we're going to be talking about aperture. Aperture is how the lens regulates how much light gets into the camera and regulates a thing called depth of field. The main thing that you're going to need to know about aperture is that the bigger the aperture, the lower the f number. And you can see this when you set your camera to A mode and you rotate the wheel. You're going to see a low number of around either 1.4 to about maybe 5.6, and then on the other end, on the small aperture, you're going to have a high f number, and that's going to be somewhere around 16 to 32. And what this means is it's a ratio of how big the aperture is inside the lens. So I'm going to show you an example here. This is my 50 millimeter 1.4. At 1.4, that means we have a large aperture and a small f number. Let's see if I can show you here. So this is what it looks like at 1.4. So you can see it's big, the whole back is lit up. When we stop it down, and it's called a stop every time you hear a click, at f16, let's see here, you can see right about there, that's a much, much smaller area. So that's going to let in a lot less light. Now, the advantages of shooting wide open is, yes, you get more light, so you can use a faster shutter speed. But you're going to have a smaller depth of field. And what depth of field means, it's the range in front of the camera that's going to be in focus. So if you're taking a portrait shot, you're going to get maybe, at 1.4 especially, you're going to get maybe the front of the nose to about half a cheek around the ear area, and everything in front and everything behind is going to be blurry. That blurriness is also referred to many as bokeh, which is nice. Everybody loves bokeh. But if you're doing like a landscape shot or something, or portraits especially, you want to get everything in focus, you might want to stop the lens down to f8 or f11, or more if you need less light and do want to do a longer exposure. But, you know, we're going to do a couple examples now. We're going to get Gilbert out, and I'm going to show you a few test shots of what the effect aperture has on a picture. So let's get to that.
All right, so let's take a look at a couple of the test shots that we've taken. For all of these, I'm going to be shooting in A mode. I'm going to have the ISO manually locked at 100, and I'm just going to let the camera decide on the length of the exposure. This first shot we're looking at, I have the aperture set at f16, and the camera has exposure of 5 seconds. So as you can see in this picture, everything is pretty much in focus. You can see that Gilbert is clear and sharp. The D800, you can read the Nikon logo, you can read the D800 logo on the camera. All the poles on the left-hand side are nice and sharp, and you can even see the Crate and Barrel logo coming out the window in the background. And in the next picture here, we've got an exposure of 1.3 seconds. The aperture here is set to f8, and you can start to tell things are getting just a little bit fuzzier. You can see that Gilbert's still in focus and nice and sharp. You can see all his fur. But you can see the D800 logo on the camera is hard to read, or almost impossible to read now. The bars on the left-hand side are just a little bit fuzzier than before, and so is the logo, the Crate and Barrel logo in the background. As we move up, or increase the aperture size and decrease the f number. This next shot here is f5.6. The exposure is about 2/3 of a second, and you can see that everything besides Gilbert is starting to get out of focus. The Nikon logo is getting a little fuzzy. You definitely can't see the D800 logo now, and the bars and the Crate and Barrel logo are blurred out. Now, this next jump is the biggest jump. We're down to f1.4. The exposure here was 1/20th of a second, and you can see that Gilbert is the only thing in focus now. The D800 is completely blurred out, and you can't even make out anything in the background. Now, if you look closely at the picture, you can probably see that on Gilbert's arm, the fur about halfway back on his arm is starting to get fuzzy too. So this shows how small the depth of field is here. You can see that we're slightly in focus in front of him on his front foot, and then it's going to be a couple inches to his back of his arm. So that's all that's in focus.
All right, Gilbert, thanks for helping us model. Now it's on to you guys. For your assignment on this Aperture Adventure, we want you to take a couple shots with the camera wide open. So set your aperture to somewhere at 3.5 or 1.4 to 3.5, and then take a couple pictures with the aperture closed down a little bit more at f11 or f16, all the way closed, and then upload your pictures to the Flickr group. That's going to be in the description. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like us on Facebook. Thanks.